right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular scheduled Taber Town Council meeting for February 13th, 2023. Call the meeting to order and ask for the adoption of the agenda as presented. Councillor Sorensen.
I'll do that, Mr. Mayor. Adopt the agenda as shown.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 3, item 3.1, we do have a public hearing related to bylaw number 2-2023, Amendment Land Use Bylaw -13-2020. If I could ask for administration to present that related to that report involved.
Yep, you can come forward, Chris or Selena, and present.
All right, just before we get to that, just to clarify, if there's anyone wish to speak for or against, they must state their name, address, and what they are speaking for or against, and identify themselves and or what group they're representing. Each presenter will be given an opportunity to address council as indicated, and any member will be allowed 5 minutes to present accordingly with questions coming from council potentially. All right, Mr. Egan, Selena.
Mr. Mayor, the public hearing is a requirement in the MGA for any time we do any sort of amendment to our land use bylaw. It gives the citizens of the town the opportunity to speak towards their opinion on what has been presented to be changed in the bylaw.
All right, thank you. Anything else to add, Mr. Egan?
We received one verbal call and in favor of the proposed amendment, but no other, we've not received any other.
Just to confirm, there's been no opposition against the land use amendment, going once, twice, 3 times, and no written accounts as well. And you did have one verbal account, no other verbal accounts going once, second, a third time, and no written verbal accounts. All right, very well. All right, any questions for our administration in that regard? And nothing further to add, fairly basic. Should be non-issue as far as this wasn't support the individual call you were saying? Totally in favor of this, okay.
Yes, that was totally, it was in favor.
All right. Council, have any other questions, comments? All right, I hereby close the hearing. On to item number 4, adoption of minutes. Item 4.1, minutes, regular council meeting, January 23rd, 2023. Councilor Rudd?
I can give you that motion, Mr. Mayor, that we accept and approve the minutes from our previous meeting of January 23rd.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 4.2, special meeting of council, January 26, 2023. I believe there is one noted change that was in writing for that particular meeting as a regular meeting of council. It should be a special meeting. So if we just have that changed accordingly, anything else come to mind? All right, someone wish to provide a motion in that regard? Councilor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council adopts the minutes of the special meeting of council held on January 26th, 2023 as presented.
All right, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 4.3, minutes of special meeting of council, January 30th, 2023. Mr. Thibault.
Much like the last one, it's just a special meeting in front of you for your consideration.
All right, thank you. Councilor Bruin.
If I can make the motion, Mr. Mayor, that council adopts the minutes of the special meeting of council held on January 30th, 2023 as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 5, business advisory minutes. There are none. Item 5.1, 52nd Street and 40th Avenue Ball Boat Tender Award. Mr. Thibault.
We'll get Mr. Shearer to come up and present this one. If council remembers, there was a previous meeting on this one back in October. This is the update to that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shearer.
Thank you, Mr. Tebow. This is, like I said, the other tender was way over budget. We're a little more over budget on this, but it was a fairly productive tender. As you can see, the numbers are really close this time. They're all within 10%, which is really good. Last time there was over $300,000 difference. So council basically said, you know, yes, you can look at this. The revitalization fund was worth $358,000. Federal gas tax about $120,000, and council said take $202,000 out of reserves for the project, which amounted to almost $80,000. The tender came in a little bit higher than anticipated. If we actually break down the costs, we took out the GST, took out the $55,000 contingency fund. The tender amount, which would be about $631,000. We lowered our costs for engineering and geomatics just to try and get this going. We'll bring the engineering in-house to watch the project to make sure it's done properly. So we were able to reduce our engineering costs. Fortis actually gave us a pretty good rate, and our contingency we dropped that to $25,000 because we're quite confident the job can go ahead without any real big faults or any unnecessary work. On all total, we're looking about $707,000. So we're asking council if they would like to move forward with the project. We still need about another $28,000 to come from the capital reserves. There is, we did ask the revitalization fund if there was any chance of getting some additional funds. We sent that email off. They sent us back a reply on Friday. No, there's no additional funds. So there is a chance that future MSI that's not used or if federal gas tax is not used could be allocated to this, but that will be up to Mr. Orwad to decide.
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can appreciate you guys really trying to keep this in budget. I just know that the grant is 75% of the cost. So is it allocated now to this new quote?
No, when we submitted for the project, we had to submit an engineered estimate, and it's 75% of that estimate, that 2 years ago. So
Okay.
we did ask for additional funds. They said no.
And that's the Friday
That was,
said
yeah,
no.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Rudd.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. We've had this up before, council before, and at that time I wasn't in favor of it, just because of the cost, the disruption of the downtown, the loss of the parking spaces, and I think the downtown, with the ones that we have, looks pretty good. That corner has got the drugstore, the Legion, you know, and a couple of banks, and it's just going to get, if we lose those, you know, 2, 4, 6, 8 parking spots around there, it's going to create a disadvantage for people using the downtown. So I guess my question would be around, is there something else we can revitalize? It would be part one. Number two is if we don't support it, like if it doesn't get supported as a project, do we just write them a check back and carry on? Or what would be any consequence there? If we could have that explained.
So when we applied for the project, we actually had listed what the project was for. We can't reallocate funds to a different area or anything like that. The revitalization fund, this project actually falls right into their line of scope of work. They want to enhance the downtown core to bring more, you know, businesses to the area, but we can't move the funds around. So basically, if you don't use it, you'll lose it.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Scheer, Brooks Asphalt and Paving, I know they've done work for us before. Are you comfortable with that particular company to do this project?
Yes, I am. They've done some really good work with us. We've had no issues with the company at all.
All right, thank you. Councillor Broom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I'm going to oppose this project. I think it's a waste of money that's not going to draw a single extra person to come downtown to look at our beautiful ball boats. We're going to lose 8 parking spots, 9 if you count the electrical vehicle plug-in in front of the Legion. I think it's probably the most expensive time in recent history to do a project like this. And for the previous 7 years, I believe, council has rejected this ball boat. And at one time, I thought it was even asked to take it off the books. But I cannot support this. I believe it's going to cost the town at least $230,000 to put in ball boats that I feel will not do a thing
to help this town. We can spend money elsewhere. Much better.
All right, thank you. Counselor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just along those lines, why, can I get some history as to why this bulb out wasn't completed along with the other three that were done?
That I couldn't tell you. I don't have that history. I assume they did one every year or every other year for 3 or 4 years. Those costs at that time weren't that great. And they subbed it out to local contractors, which was, I think their costs were about $250,000, but that was about 15 years ago. So costs were less expensive. And we all know the cost of everything's gone up. We just had a notice that concrete went up 20-some% again. So they're not going to get cheaper. I know that. Costs are always going to go up and up. So what you have in front of you today is reflective to the cost of today's pricing.
All right, sure.
So I know, Mr. Shear, that you mentioned that there does need to be some maintenance under maybe ground for piping or
Yes.
something. Can that still be done? Has it been done? I can't remember what you stated before.
So there is some underground work that a couple of pipelines to be replaced, only because we're putting all new asphalt on it. So the lifespan of the pipeline underneath is 10 to 15 years. The asphalt's 25 years. We definitely don't want to be ripping up new asphalt, so we sooner replace it now. The price of the tender we got for the tender of that pipeline was actually quite substantially lower than what we had estimated. It was only like $36,000, so there's no reason not to put those pipes in. It's just a benefit, so you don't have to dig up new asphalt in the future.
All right, thank you. Counselor Bruin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So is the pipeline included in this cost?
Yes.
Okay. My answer to Councillor Sorensen asking why it wasn't done in the past is because council at the time thought it was too expensive and wasn't worth doing.
All right, thank you. Counselor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not speaking in favor or opposed to this particular project. I would like to ask Mr. Thibault, however, regarding possible legal ramifications, because it was in the budget. And if council would turn this project down, would there be any ramification regarding the tender project or not?
From a legal perspective, being over budget is a valid reason to not continue with the project. So we wouldn't be in a bad place. We probably have some unhappy contractors and they've gone through some work to provide this information for us more than once. But from a legal standpoint, I don't believe that we're in a bad spot.
All right, thank you. Counselor Beckering?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a follow-up then, I kind of thought that, Mr. Thibault, but it is indeed a fact, right? Because it's somewhat over the budget amount. We can walk away from the project, correct, sir?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, thank you. Counselor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I was initially in favor of this project previously. With the second cost overrun, I can't support it anymore. When it was grant funded, that was a totally different thing, but now we added $200,000 to the budget. Now we're being asked to add another $27,000 to the budget. So I can't support this.
All right, thank you. Counselor Sorensen?
Just one more thing, Mr. Mayor. How does this affect the beautification plan that we have for the downtown corridor? Because this is part of us beautifying the downtown. And so we've gone ahead and did 3 bulb outs, added some park benches, added the trees. How does this complete the whole design or the whole picture of what we had, or previous council has had for our downtown corridor then?
I think I'd direct that maybe to Mr. Thibault for the start of that anyway. If you don't mind, Mr. Thibault.
I was hoping you wouldn't direct that to Mr. Thibault, because Mr. Thibault doesn't know the history on that. It might be Gary that could speak best to that as far as, but I know from the downtown perspective, there was lots of different things that were going into the downtown revitalization. So, signage on the front of buildings, some of the murals that we've done, there was definitely other trees and things like that, but I don't know that the bulb outs were actually considered part of the beautification unless Mr. Shear recalls.
Well, there were lots of businesses that said, why isn't this bulb out done? And we've had numerous complaints about that. They wanted to see it finished in that area. And when we applied for the grant, that was part of the reason why, is because businesses wanted to see it move forward. But at that time, costs were a lot less, substantially less. So this would be a council decision.
All right, thank you. Councillor Broom?
I think we can spend this money, $230,000 somewhere else to make other things more beautiful. And I'm prepared at this time to make a motion that council rejects all bids and directs administration to cancel the Ball Belt portion of the project due to cost escalation.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? All right. Opposed? There was one opposed. Okay, carried. Thank you. All right. On to bylaws, item 6.1, proposed bylaw 2-2023, second and third reading. Mr. Tebow.
So this pertaining to or in follow-up of the public hearing, Selena can provide any additional information, but we are just looking for a second and third reading of the bylaw amendment.
All right, thank you. Someone prepared to make the first required motion. Councillor Rudd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'll make the motion the council gives second reading to bylaw 2-2023 to amend the land use bylaw 13-2020 as presented.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimous. Thank you. Someone prepared to make the second required motion. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council gives third reading to bylaw 2-2023 to amend land use bylaw 13-2020 as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to action items, item 7.1, destruction of municipal documents, Aquafund Center. Mr. Tebow.
So our document retention bylaw speaks to the destruction of documents after certain amounts of time. This is an annual thing that comes forward, and this particular one's from the Aquafund Center. I don't know if there's any questions. I think that Chris could speak to those questions, but I think this is fairly straightforward.
All right. I think as Ms. Van Ham has explained in the past, this is pretty standard, correct? Annually, we're doing this sort of thing in a number of areas, correct? Right.
Yes, it is,
All
Mayor
right.
Council, thank you.
Thank you. All right, any questions arising? Councillor Beckering?
Prepared to make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Very well.
I move that council approve the destruction of the documents identified in the attached list for the retention period in years identified in the Schedule A of the bylaw number 10-99, retention of municipal documents. Very exciting.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.2, no parking, 50th, 44th Street, 864 area. Mr. Tebow.
Mentioned a little further down in the traffic committee minutes in your package, there's a bit that speaks to this. The traffic committee did meet and had this discussion, so it's in front of council for any discussion you wish to have.
All right, thank you. And who's speaking to this one, Mr. Tebow?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Scheer. I'll speak
Mr.
to this one.
Scheer, all right. All right, thank you, Mr. Scheer.
Yes, this was brought up to our attention that we're seeing a lot of vehicles parking on there. We've always determined that parking shouldn't be around the hospital area. There's for public safety. Tabor Police Services, we discussed this at our traffic committee meeting. That's for pedestrian safety, bicycle safety. It's just, we feel that no parking from 44th Street to 864 would benefit the public and general safety. So we're looking for council's endorsement of the no parking area.
All right, thank you, Councillor Rudd.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I read the report from the traffic committee and it all logically makes sense. But I just, was there not at one time a plan? I saw some drawings of that area and where the sidewalk was relocated on the north side and there was angle parking. So there were people were moved out of the traffic lanes, and when they angle parked, like in other words, making a bulb in, not a bulb out at that point, and allowing for angle parking.
Yeah.
Did that ever That's
I-
not gonna
I've
come to
never s-
fruition, that's not future
I've never
development?
seen that plan, no.
Okay,
I
At
think,
one
I
time
think
it-
Councillor Rudd, that particular area was earmarked over by the Clearview Lodge, down that stretch to the north-south stretch, just east of Clearview Lodge. That was looked at as that particular
as a,
angle
as a
party.
bowl bin?
Correct, yes. I'd call it that. Yeah, that's a good one. So
Yeah.
maybe that's where you're getting that, but I don't recall anything anywhere down this
Yeah,
stretch,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, there was some, maybe just earlier drawings, so. But there's going to be more development in that area. And it'll increase, traffic volumes in there. If it goes to residential and goes to other businesses and such, I'm just concerned that they may not have adequate parking in there, and then it's gonna leak out onto the street anyway. And if it can't go there, it's gonna go, into the residential. So, we can certainly revisit this if that happens and make some other, changes that might be necessary because of that, but, I certainly support what's in the traffic committee's report, so.
We know that the developments there are supposed to have all the parking within the development. We're seeing it coming into the streets now. The hospital is supposed to have all their own parking interior also. That's why they're really, for safety, we figured the best is to have no parking for now.
For now, yeah.
It can be revisited anytime.
All right, Mr. Chair, I'm just looking at this, like, generally there's some other data, as far as complaints, written concerns. I don't see any of that. Is there any of that you're aware of that's come up?
No, it just came through the Tabor Police Service is their concerns, and they've seen this numerous times where people had parked and they're walking out in front of it, and the vehicles didn't see the person and wanting to drive through the crosswalk. We've seen that a few times. We used to have a 4-lane down there. We had to turn that into 2-lane because there was just too much traffic, and nobody was stopping for pedestrians. So.
We've got the 2 pedestrian locations there for
Yep.
sure, and the pedestrian lights coming to assist in that regard there. And being we made that into 1 lane, both sides, both east-west direction. It's widened the street as a result there. Just today I was by there's 1 vehicle parked outside one of the clinics there. Didn't seem to be problematic at all to me as far as where it was parked and anybody getting in and out of the vehicle. Et cetera. And you know what? I just look at this. There's 15 different no parking signs in a 4-block stretch.
Don't get hung. I just put them there as representation.
Okay, but anyway, just an example. But it seems to me it's a little heavy enforcement or heavy no parking location. When I look at what else is there anything comparable anywhere else in town for that matter that we've done something similar anywhere else in town?
If you compare the hospital and then the new medical center, this is probably the most amount of people that be in one area at one time. So there again, it'd be no different than if you don't have angle parking like ball bins, it's really conducive to manage your parking. So you see that around the hospital in Lethbridge where they have their ball bins, everything else, very little angle parking anywhere. So we thought it would be best, this is based off of Tabor Police's best reports and guiding us, so.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the angle parking per se, just this is parallel parking, but
Yep.
But when you look down that whole stretch from 864 all the way down to the police station at 57th Avenue, there's either parallel parking or angle parking allowed all the way down, right? And no requirement for any signage in that regard. Also, some new signage here down 47th Avenue near the police station as well, near the new chamber building location, and there's simply 2-hour parking signs there, parallel parking, so it's a whole lot tighter there, with a lot of traffic going east-west there as well. And I'm not seeing the comparison rationale when you've got wider streets out by the hospital area and down 47th Avenue, 54th to 57th Ave area is fairly narrow street and very heavy traffic. Why isn't we're allowing parallel parking there, albeit 2-hour parking?
Yep.
So when I compare those two, that doesn't seem to be the same rationale involved there. As far as
We're more worried about pedestrian and bicycle safety. That was the main concern.
Yeah, again, that's both that same type of pedestrian uses in that particular area. Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I kind of drove through there because I haven't because of the new construction. And I was just wondering if people are parking just because the parking lots aren't finished. I'm not sure, like, it is gonna be a highly congested area with all the businesses, and I think there's continued, investment in that area. And I was just wondering, like, is there adequate parking for those businesses without street parking along there?
For them to get their permit, yes, they have to guarantee that. I think Selena should verify that they have to have their parking with it. There again, I don't know why. The only area that it's not is the downtown corridor, because there's not enough parking in behind their businesses. So they're allowed to park on the roads. All businesses have to have their staff parking within their property.
It's just grandfathered
Yeah.
because of before the buildings were built.
I guess it just seems like when we're looking to do a stop sign, a location, or a speed sign, different times, there's usually some monitoring going on and some time involved in getting a report back before we go to the next step. So that doesn't appear to be done here. That's another concern I have with this particular area as well. Councilor Bruin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I drive that 50th Avenue daily, and I've noticed when vehicles started parking there, it does seem to congest the street a bit, especially when there's snow on the street and there's slush. I don't feel it's safe having people park there. If you go a little further to the east on 50th Avenue, that's when we're wider, and it allows for more people to park. Here, I think it's dangerous with the pedestrians, and I would not be in favor of parking there. I'd support the no parking, just for safety of pedestrians and people getting in and out of their vehicles.
All right, thank you, Councilor Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm speaking in favor of the recommendation. There's no motion made yet, but, because it's a main thoroughfare, right? 50th Avenue is probably the thoroughfare of Tabor. And I drive that lots. And the other day when I saw some vehicles parked there because of the new projects, Horizon Dental's there now, of course, and Dr. Torrey's a new building. And there's lots of parking on the developer's property there. Lots and lots of parking. The hospital has lots of parking. Very seldom have I seen the parking lot of the hospital full. So I think it makes no sense for people to park on 50th Avenue whatsoever. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilor Firth.
Thank you. I'm just going to echo what most of my fellow councilors have said. The discussion around this at the traffic committee was just that the high volume of traffic, cars and pedestrians, and the amount of people that are crossing at all of those crosswalks along there, and the fact that cars aren't always stopping for pedestrians now. We've determined that we need flashing pedestrian lights there, and the fact that the businesses that are being built in Westview Close have adequate on-site parking. So that's how we came to that recommendation.
All right, thank you, Councilor Rudd.
I just wondered if you had canvassed any of the people in that area?
No, we have not. We looked at this. This has been ongoing for a few years at the traffic committee. We've discussed this. And when we put the landscaping down on 50th Avenue, we did the landscaping conducive of no parking. So there would be no access from the road to the sidewalk. And that was that thought years ago, but I mean, that's up to council if they would like to see that.
Yeah, I guess part of the change is when they're taking down the fence fairly recently too. So
Yeah.
now that's, that much more easily accessible. That way it seems natural that you're just gonna wanna do that. But I guess also, I believe there's a plan in place where there's a walkway across somewhere in between the clinics there, Mr. Tebow, to do a walkway across that rock area, north-south. Is that correct?
I did see a picture at one point in time. I have no idea if that's actual for construction drawings, but there was a pathway that was looking like it was going to adjoin the town's pathway. But I don't know if development
Okay.
knows of that or not.
Yeah, my concern is the one building for sure has two entrance accesses there also. So that only stands to reason somebody's gonna wanna park there, right? Closest point A to point B. So, Councilor Bruin?
I may be wrong, but I think the people that are parking along that street are actually employees of the dental clinic. And it's an easy access into the back door. It's not customers that are parking on that street. So that's just my observations.
Okay, I didn't, I was around there earlier today too, just to have a look. I don't know how many parking spots are there, but Selena's still here somewhere. Oh, she is. Any idea the number of parking spots that are available for both clinics there, Selena?
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Not off the top of my head. The dental office has, I believe, 24, because I was out checking that a week
24.
or two ago. And then they do have an agreement in place to provide some more parking across the way when they further develop.
All right, thank you. Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm prepared to make a motion at this time.
All right,
I move the council approves the no parking area on 50th Avenue from 44th Street to Highway 864 and directs administration to install the necessary signage.
all right, thank you. Councillor Rudd, you had a question, comment? No, I'm just gonna make the motion. All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right, on to item 7.3, proposed changes to municipal police commission policy. Mr. Tebow.
I believe we have Mr. John McDonald in the audience to speak to this should there be any questions. If council recalls, there was a request to go back to the police commission and make an adjustment, and I believe that that adjustment did happen, but John's here.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, thanks again for your
Good
time.
afternoon.
We have taken back the amendment that was proposed by the council, and we just debated it at the commission meeting and it was passed. And we brought it back here for final submission for approval.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? None whatsoever. All right, Councillor McLean?
No, I'm just prepared to make a motion, Mr. Mayor,
All right.
that council approves the proposed changes to the Taber Municipal Police Commission Policy Manual as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Councillor Becker, you had a question, comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Mr. McDonald, I'm getting a little older, so can you remind me of the changes that were, what was it all about?
Okay, let's assume I'm a bad guy and I go to Calgary and do a bad thing. There's no way you track me because they're not gonna, police aren't gonna phone the Taber police can, what happened, right? So it'd be up to me to disclose that. Now this says it, and now it's part of our policy.
All right, thank you. Councillor Rudd?
Yeah, just a comment before we vote, Mr. Mayor, and I think the commission did a good job of making that amendment. It's going to serve well in the future, and it captures exactly what was needed.
I agree.
So, yeah, so good on the commission.
All right, thank you. Once again, we do have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. All right, on to item 7.4, volunteer recognition. Mr. Tebow.
I believe Ms. Megan Brennan's going to come forward and discuss volunteer recognition history and future.
All right, thank you, Mr. Brennan.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon.
This is a familiar tune, but it's a little bit different this time, so hopefully you can sing along with me. In the past, during the COVID-19 pandemic, we had to cancel, by no choice of our own, the volunteer recognition banquet, and we actually received excellent feedback on the donation program that we did in a time of desperation. And when we used to have the event, the volunteers said, it's nice, but we don't do it to be recognized. We do it for our community, we do it for our people. And they told us that consistently, and when we did the donation policy, the feedback was surprising to me how overwhelmingly positive it was. So in that vein, as we listen to our volunteers and we listen how they want to be recognized, we're asking for council's endorsement to continue the donation program. It would be completely within budget, as council's already approved. The only difference is that the money would now go directly to the groups, and they can choose what they want to do with it. So the options always are that they can donate it to a group of their choice, they can use it for an item that they would like to buy, so the Communities in Bloom has used that, or they can even use it to buy an item for their own volunteers, so if they wanted to buy jackets or something like that. And they've always chosen to donate it in some way back to the community, which is incredibly heartwarming. As an additional anecdote, when some of our compatriots in administration reached out to us from other municipalities, they were blown away with this program. So we, as of right now, are the only ones that we know that are doing this program, but it kind of makes us front runners, if you will, for volunteer recognition in that vein. So we're just asking for your endorsement to continue on with that.
All right, thank you. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is wonderful, and being on different committees and the volunteers that are on those committees, they appreciate this and they think that it's awesome that we do this, and they think it's kind of a cool thing that we do. So I am totally in favor of it, and I can make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you.
That council endorses administration carrying on with the recognition donation program as a method of recognizing town volunteers.
All right, thank you. Councillor Firth, you had a question?
I was just going to speak in favor of the motion. Yeah, I had similar feedback from a lot of the volunteer boards that I sit on. They were, $100 isn't a lot, but when you are a volunteer board and you're working with a small budget, it's very much appreciated. And well, as long as we're recognizing our volunteers, because they do such a great job in our community, and we so appreciate them. And we thought that a banquet was lovely, but it turns out maybe we missed the mark. So thanks for making this change.
All right, thank you. Councillor Rudd.
Yeah, again, in support, Mr. Mayor, and just, I run a shop where we have volunteers and we rely heavily on them. And I know when we proposed what to do with the donation, that it went to a very good cause. And it was just saw it in action, and it was nice. So good for Tabor. Be out there.
All right, thank you. We do have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 7.5, information for council. Mr. Tebow.
So there is no motion required on this one, but this has a bit more information than we typically have, so I wouldn't mind going through just a couple of things. So the draft traffic meeting minutes that everyone read through, self-explanatory. We do have one of the standing items in here, an update for Councillor Firth's standing item for the auditorium, and that was speaking to the wheelchair ramp and then the wheelchair accessibility device that goes down the stairs. So it might be best if Mr. Egan came forward and just spoke to that conversation that he had, and then I can move on to item 3. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon.
We're pleased to report that we're working off one of the standing items. We're always happy when we do that. In this case, the Recreation Department contacted the Director of Tabor Special Needs, who I believe had originally contacted Councillor Firth. And the two pieces of feedback we got from the auditorium issues were a signage issue, where it wasn't readily evident for someone who needed to use the accessibility devices that there was a ramp and where that was located, and that there was a lift. And an issue at times when people were uncertain on how to use the lift, even though there's instructions there, both on the lift and adjacent to it. It is a device that doesn't get used a lot by people, and so at times there would be ideal if there was accommodation that someone from staff could be there to give them verbal instructions, and so that they could properly use the lift themselves, and also if the person using the lift needed assistance, that someone could ride the lift with them, which is absolutely permitted and possible on that particular device. The other items is the auditorium meets all current accessibility codes from a code standpoint. If we were to do a major renovation, then we'd have to look at the modern current code and modernize the facility to meet that. There is both a wheelchair lift and a ramp that do meet the code. We have purchased new signage and installed that new signage that will meet that need of directing people appropriately. And we've tested the lift and checked on its maintenance records and service records, and it's fully serviced and ready to use.
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering if when people rent the facility, if they can have knowledge of how to use the lift or have the opportunity to ask questions when renting, just so that if they do have the public, then they would be able to maybe answer questions if there was a need for it.
Sure, we can certainly ask if that possibility would exist, and if they would require training or someone of assistance.
Sorry if I could.
All right, sure.
Is there somewhere like on the application form that there could be a box that's ticked for more information or something like that?
Sure, we could look into that for sure and make it easy for people to identify that requirement.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tebow.
I just wanted to make mention that on the new signage, there is a phone number to call for an operator to come help. So if that wasn't thought of beforehand, we'll be making staff available with the number that's on that sign.
All right, thank you, Councillor Firth.
I just wanted to thank administration for the follow-up and investigation into this. I think it was brought up at a coffee with council session, and I think it hits all of the points that the public was concerned about, so appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, just a clarification question, Mr. Regan, about the wheelchair ramp. I believe Councillor Rudd indicated also a little bit shaky there with two on there. Somebody like a caregiver and the actual person in the wheelchair was a little shaky, and I don't know if that's solid enough or is something adjusted there, or is that something that was problematic?
Not from our maintenance records. It's easier to use. It's really set up for an individual person to use.
One person.
Where the person in the chair is wheeled onto the lift, there are barriers that come up. And if a person has difficulty actually operating the lift themselves, which is part of the process, they can be met at the bottom and escorted off and helped off.
Okay.
But it is definitely possible for an individual in a chair and someone providing assistance to ride the lift. We
Okay,
actually
I think
tested
that's
that
just what
ourselves.
was suggested there, one of the meetings there, that Councillor Rudd had some experience with that, and maybe a little bit concerned about that also, but that's been looked after anyway.
Yeah, it's, I think, my personal opinion is it's not regularly encountered in buildings where there are, for example, elevators. Those elevators are meant to accommodate. So a lift of that kind is a little bit, I don't want to say unusual, because it's totally functional, but it's not often encountered probably by people.
Okay, great. Thank you. Councillor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know Councillor Rudd did mention the shaky lift or something at one time. But Mr. Mayor, I blame it on Councillor Rudd's considerable girth.
All right. And if anybody wasn't aware, Councillor Beckering's our PR guy for council, so. All right, Councillor Rudd.
Well, in response, I would say that once a person becomes practiced at it, then you would be used to that sensation of bulbing down. If I may say it that way.
Well,
So
you said it.
Yeah, I think with all the safety checks done on it and the maintenance up to date, it's just fine.
All right, great. Thank you, Mr. Egan, for all your many efforts. All right, that's got that taken care of, Mr. Tebow?
Yeah, so point number 3, we went through a core audit certification, and I see Grace is here. Were you willing to speak to that, or would you like me just to speak to that? Come on up.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon.
So I'm not sure if you've had the opportunity to look through just the overview of the core audit. Basically, every 3 years, we have to undergo an external audit in order to maintain our core requirements. When we do maintain, we do get some kickback with WCB. So that's one of the important reasons as to why we undergo the audit. Odd International Limited did the audit through the course of November 7th to December 13th, and then they provided us with a report. So I guess continuing. So the process was that they conducted 3 site visits out of the 8 facilities that we had presented that they could come and do an audit on, and they interviewed 25 staff members from those 3 sites. So it was contained to the 3 sites that they visited. They also reviewed all of our policies, procedures, safe work practices, and based on all the information that they were able to collect, then they rate us on the 10 elements, which are listed there. I won't go through the list. So our final score was 84%. We've had our core renewed until 2025. Some of the highlights, I guess, overall, the auditor was really impressed. So just a giant congratulations to all the staff that participated in the audit, everybody who helped in the prep work, whether they were interviewed or not. And our results are only made possible by the staff's commitment to health and safety. So if there are any questions, I am able to answer.
All right, thank you. Councillor Bruin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Congratulations to all the staff again. That was a good job. What is the passing mark for this?
The passing grade is 80%.
Okay, my other question then would be, we have 16% we failed. What are our deficiencies?
So some areas that we do need to improve on would be some, where we lacked the most was probably system administration and going through the information with the auditor. It's likely due to the fact that there's been so much change and turnover within HR and health and safety. So getting those policies and procedures and making sure they're kept up to date, that's kind of fallen by the wayside with the changeover in staff. So that's probably an easy fix. Once we get kind of settled and we get our new health and safety person hired, we can get that all under wraps. We did really well with our contractor handbook and making sure that when we have contractors come to our municipal sites that we're doing tailgate meetings or safe work meetings before the work gets done. But then maybe we need to improve on how we monitor them as the work is getting done. So we're very good at introducing them to the work site, talking to them about the hazards that are there when they first come, but then the follow-up to make sure that they're monitoring those hazards and how we're monitoring the contractors. That was somewhere we could improve on. And also some training for some of our new joint health and safety committee staff members. So we've recently had some turnover with our committee. So then the new committee members need some training. So that was identified also as an area of weakness. Yeah.
So 100% in 2025.
Let's go for that, yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rudd.
Oh, and congratulations, Grace. Yeah, I think I've been through those audits before. I think that's a good job. And some of the stuff is pretty sticky. So I know that. And I guess we just learned again that the job isn't finished till the paperwork's done.
Correct.
So is Adang International, are they contractors?
Yes.
Okay, so there was a fee attached to that.
Yes. So in the 2022 budget, there was an approved amount, and I don't know that amount off the top of my head, but it was all within budget what they had.
In the past, there was agreements between communities to send their qualified staff to your location. They would cover all the costs, come down, do the audit, and then you would likewise reciprocate back to some other community. So I guess that's probably over.
Yeah, I'm not aware if that's still a common practice. I do know that municipalities still help each other with how to set up for some of our internal audits. So every year that we're not doing an external, the 2 years in between, we are doing internal audits, and that's done by our staff. And I think there is a pretty good conversation back and forth with some other municipalities, but I'm not sure that they necessarily come and actually assist with the audit anymore. But that's something that we could look into.
Yeah, it might be worth it just to, I mean, I guess somebody's made an industry out of it, but, you know, in the past, it was just, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, which is, you know, a good way to do business. So thanks for that.
All right. Thank you. Councillor Swords.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and congratulations. I do this myself, so I know the feat of trying to achieve this, so congratulations. I also know that if you don't get 100% in each element, you have a suggestion for improvement. So do you guys have an action plan moving forward to make the corrections and make the improvements?
So we've had an initial meeting with the joint health and safety meeting, and we're also going to be meeting with the Town Taber management staff as a whole to create that action plan. But everybody has had the opportunity now to start going through the report so that we can plan for how we can improve in the future.
Just one more question.
Sure.
When did the town first receive their certificate of recognition, if you know? It's been a long
That's
time.
an excellent question that I don't know the answer to.
Long time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for all that information, Grace. And again, congratulations as well. Job well done. Mr. Tebow, anything else to add there?
That concludes the information bit.
All right. Thank you. Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Was it the parking spots for the Tabor Special Needs included in that package? There's some pictures.
That might have been part of the traffic committee minutes in this
okay.
package, yeah.
Okay. So I'd just like to comment that I'm very happy that they've been accommodated, and I think this needed to be addressed for their parking needs.
Oh, I know our administration's working with them for some time on that one, so I think they're happy, as I understand it so far, correct?
I'm hoping that's the case, yes.
Okay. All right, no motion required in that regard. On to item 7.6, standing item council requests. Mr. Tebow?
Okay, so 3 to mention. One of them we spoke to earlier, being the auditorium from Councillor Firth. Later on in the evening, we have an item that's going to address the pickup of the refuge containers, so we'll speak to that one a little later. And we haven't had any progress made on the access street from 56th Avenue, making 43rd go all the way through. We've been having a little bit of difficulty getting hold of the developer and getting back to us on this one, so we'll call it still in progress.
All right.
And the floor is council's.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a new standing request, Mr. Mayor. I've been contacted by 2 separate people in the last 2.5 weeks regarding the dumping of animal carcasses on the nuisance grounds, or on the dump grounds. Mr. Jeff Smith and Steve Van Geest. And it's cattle that have been home butchered, I would call, and the carcasses, the heads, the hooves, and the hides are dumped somewhere north of the weigh scale of the town property. Now, that creates all kinds of hazards, of course, because coyotes and dogs drag these hooves and heads and carcasses and hides to the trail and it's just very unsanitary, and also considerable risk attached to that because of there's a material in the carcasses called RSM. It's specific risk material that, because of the BSE problems we had in the past, have to be disposed of in the proper way. That's law, Mr. Mayor. And these people that are doing that, they should be caught, but hard to catch, I know. But I'd like some input from administration if they've heard of it and what's being done about it. I know Lisa DeBona has been contacted, and they removed one of the carcasses with the town loader, I believe, but you can't just bury them either, because that's illegal. It's got to be a SRM facility that disposes of this material, Mr. Mayor. So I'd like some conversation around it, if I may, please.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tebow. You familiar with any of that? Nature?
So this is the first I've heard of it, and you know more than I do that Lisa's been contacted and something happened with something. So I'm not sure if Mr. Scheer has any information. If not, then we can certainly take it away and come back with something. But Gary, if you know something about...
We're gonna have to come back with something. I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it or anything, so we'll have to get more information, come back to council.
All right, Councillor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make a motion then that asks administration to investigate the disgraceful disposing of animal carcasses on the town property.
All right, thank you.
Specifically the dump.
All right. Councillor Rudd, any question also, comment?
No, none of that I have.
Oh, okay, all right, okay. Okay, very well. All right, we do have a motion on the table. You had a question related to that? Councillor Bruin?
Just a question to that. Are these carcasses, are they wild game carcass? Are they like cattle?
Cattle.
My
Yes.
suggestion would be is also report it, because they may be stolen, check for brands, and because that is a common occurrence where they will steal a calf or animal and butcher it and throw away the carcasses in the ditches. We saw that a lot in the MD. So it came down to checking the hides for brands and whatnot.
I'm just wondering, sure administration look into that, but just how they were getting to that point wherever they were dumped and like what kind of access they'd have to dump in that location. All right, we do have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And Councillor Rudd, you had a stand item council request also?
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to inquire about the intersection of 44th Street and 51st Avenue. I'm sure Public Works is aware that's a perennial problem with that corner. It's a collection spot for water, and the asphalt breaks down and the potholes just get larger and larger. So just wondering if that's in the crosshairs for future repair, or do we need to get after that one?
We'd have to review what we're gonna be doing this year. I don't have that. I know we have trouble in that area, and it's always reviewed, and we surveyed the area numerous times. So there probably is a project coming forth, but feel free to put it on the standing item, so just to make sure we're covered.
All right. Councillor Rudd, would you like to make a motion in that regard?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that council direct administration to look into the road condition at 44th Street and 51st Avenue and come back with a report and perhaps a plan.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Your house help?
All right, any other standing item council requests? See none. All right, ask for a motion to break until our 5 o'clock delegation. Councillor Beckering, motion on the table. All in favor? Unanimously. Thank you. All right, if we could reconvene the meeting, please. On to our delegations for recognition of a service, Alberta Emergency Service Medal. Mr. Tebow.
I see Mr. Munshaw is standing ready, so we'll let him start things off and do the presentations.
All right, Chief Munshaw.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. I'm here today to recognize two members of the Taber Fire Department, Lieutenant Michael Belay and Firefighter John Peters. Recognition today is done through the province of Alberta through the Emergency Service Medal given on two firefighters with 12 years of exemplary service. It's great to see these two members having 12 years of dedicated service, and I know they'll tell you that they have even more, but it takes a bit for these medals to come in. We've been recognized, and this organization recognized the honor of these individuals who have remarkable achievements to the Taber Fire Department and its community and exemplify outstanding performance. Today we're here to give these medals on behalf of the province, so Your Worship, if you would assist me in presenting these medals.
Are we moving? Okay, perfect. No man dash. Yeah. Yeah, goodness, 'cause I'm. Yeah.
Congratulations, you guys.
Yeah, well
Thanks for
done.
everything.
Congratulations, yes.
Thanks to our fire
Another.
department.
Thank you. Guys look all so spiffy. They are, that's what they're doing right now. Yeah. You guys are yeah, thank you. So good. They could have done this.
We're back live again. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. We do need a motion for that, I guess, do we? Yes. Could we have a motion for the recognition of service, please? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council recognizes and congratulates Lieutenant Michael Boulay and firefighter Johan Peters on receiving the 12-year Emergency Service Medal from the province of Alberta. Council thanks Lieutenant Michael Boulay and firefighter Johan Peters for their dedicated and long-standing service to the citizens of the town of Taber.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to media inquiries. Mr. Tebow.
There are none.
All right, thank you. With that, ask for a motion to move into closed session, please. Councillor Brune.
I'll make the motion and we move into closed.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
I make the motion that council directs administration to start the online enforcement survey and bring the results back to a future council meeting.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table.
I was told by that enforcement.
Yeah. And that indicates all for, okay. All right, we do have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 10.3, Councillor Firth. All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion?
Okay,
All-
just a question on that.
What's that?
What, the motion said what there, sorry?
The 118.
We're transferring
We're just transferring.
118,000 in budgeted funds
Yeah.
from finance, salaries and benefits to capital, or to contracted services.
And that's.
That's what he was asking for, yeah.
The
Okay.
50 doesn't come.
No, that's just what we're paying out for contracts. All right, motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 10.4, Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that council offers the final 3 years of the investment incentive bylaw exemption to Timohin Khan, Inc. at 6110 69th Avenue, Taber.
All right. Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And motion to close the meeting. Councillor McLean, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Great. Thank you.